From Nutrien Ag Solutions, I'm Senior Atmospheric Scientist Andrew Pritchard with your Canadian Prairie weather story for Wednesday, February 26th, 2025. Temperature pattern has stabilized across the region. We've got much more typical late February temperatures across the region. That is across the Canadian Prairie, all the way down into the northern plains. Much of the upper Midwest in the United States here, finally not dealing with, February, but 15 degrees colder than normal in February. So a bit of mild air across the region right now. We do have some colder shots that'll be rotating through the area, but in general, over the next 3 weeks, looking at warmer pattern kind of persisting. It's going to be kind of a fake active pattern. I looked at this in a couple different ways. Faux active, inefficiently active. We have a lot of disturbances that'll be making their way through the prairie, kind of maybe impacting the temperatures slightly, bringing some breezy winds, but otherwise really kind of a whiff as far as moisture goes. We'll have a system bringing some heavier precip north of the prairie, some snowfall here over the next 3 to 4 days, but in general, light precip across the region. And as I already kind of spoiled the secret here, more warm days than cold as we head through the early part of March. So here's a look at the satellite picture. Infrared, we've got a big trough off to the west here. It's going to kind of be split in half. We've got one piece off to the north. We've got another little piece that's going to be pinched off. It's going to make its way across portions of the southwest U.S. This disturbance comes up over the top of the ridge we've got right here and brings a corridor of snow along and north of Highway 16 over the next 3 to 4 days. Here is that snow right now across parts of central BC. Could bring some snow to parts of the Peace River, Grand Prairie area over the next 24 to 48 hours. But in general, this system rides up over the top of the ridge across the region and kind of just delivers a round of precipitation along and north of this corridor here, kind of north of Highway 16. Not a big impact here across the prairie. Current temperatures right now, again, anywhere from minus, I guess close to 0 to around minus 10 is what I should say. You can find a couple spots here that are a degree or two above freezing. In general, near or a few degrees below freezing across the prairie this morning. We'll check in with that precipitation forecast for the next 4 days real quick. And again, I'll show you that little system that rides over the top of the ridge. Here it is. This is kind of overnight into Thursday morning. We'll look for that snow to be falling north of Highway 16 during the day on Thursday. Area of low pressure exits Thursday night into Friday morning. So south of the area of low pressure's track here, could certainly expect some breezier winds, but it's a kind of a mild, dry, breezy wind that comes in on the backside, not really filled with moisture. All of the lift, all of the moisture along and north of that storm track. So total precipitation between now and Saturday night, again, all of it north of Highway 16 in this corridor of snow, where certainly there could be a very narrow corridor that's rather heavy, anywhere from 4 to 6 inches. Something like that, maybe some locally higher totals, but south of the prairie, we are just on the dry side through the weekend and really through much of the next 10 to 14 days, other than some opportunities for light precipitation. So here's the jet stream picture, kind of zoomed out, 500 millibars. This is the big trough off to the west. 2 pieces to it, though. There's a couple of what we call kind of vorticity maximums or disturbances kind of within this, and they're going to separate as we go through the next 48 hours or so, one going south, the other one going off to the north. So we'll go ahead and take the drawings off of here. They're kind of going to split around the ridge here across western North America. Let's go ahead and rewind. Here's your Wednesday. This is your Thursday. Now you see it. This is the one kind of going over the top of the ridge, a little bit further south from there, going over the ridge right there. With snow north of the disturbance. It's going to be breezy, but it's going to be warm and breezy south of that disturbance as it makes its way through. As we get into early next week, or I should say, early in the weekend, Friday, Saturday, into Sunday, ridging takes over. We've got a storm track that's running south across parts of the southwest and southern United States. In general, the jet stream quiet across the prairie. You kind of look at it, there's all these little kind of short waves embedded within the flow, but the main, storm track, much of the jet stream energy, I guess is what I'm getting at, is south of the prairie during the majority of the next 7 days. It's not until we get into kind of next weekend, March 9th, 8th, and 9th, you start to see another disturbance that's trying to kind of bring some organized flow into the prairie, but it does so in the form of ridging with another trough, likely to break off and go south. We kind of don't have confidence in the details here as we're getting out to 300 plus hours into the future. But in general, as I just kind of think about the storm track overall, we're seeing these big troughs, these big areas of low pressure develop, bringing some moisture to parts of British Columbia and the Pacific Northwest. But then we're seeing the storm track kind of make its way over the Rockies and reinforce itself right here so that we get this active storm track, heavy precipitation across parts of the central and southern United States. And then we just kind of, quiet ridging across the prairie. And at times some disturbances kind of within that flow, but not very efficient at bringing organized precipitation in. You see that here again. Just look at the kind of reinforcement of the ridge as we just let this play. See towards the end of the loop, we see a bit of a transition here mid-March, but over the next 10 to 14 days, the bigger systems run off to the south of the ridge that we've got kind of just reinforcing itself here. So heavy precipitation kind of locked into this corridor. We're just fake busy across this region. It's not the technical term, but I don't want to say that we're quiet, completely ridged out. It's not hot and dry. If you got to think back to a year like 2020 or 2012 or something like that, it's just kind of persistently mild with ineffective storm systems making their way through. So you see a couple shots of cooler air, especially in the east over the next 10 to 14 days, but in general, mild temperatures persisting. And then this is the last way we'll kind of look at this precipitation forecast. You see the predominant storm track kind of just running right through this area with, at times, little clippers riding up over the top of the ridge. So you get heavy precipitation here and just kind of light doses of precipitation with that northern branch. It's kind of just the moisture's wrung out from the Pacific Ocean as the storm systems make their way over. And without this storm track being further north, we're not benefiting from the Gulf of Mexico and getting really heavy precip north. We may do that later, just not in the next 14 days. So here's the next 14 days from the European model. Actually, I should say the next 15 days, really. Again, you see the corridors, heavy precipitation across the central, southern, and eastern U.S., heavy precip here across the Pacific Ocean, where we've got the systems that ride over the ridge. They get their moisture kind of, zapped by the mountains, and then we get just, a disturbance coming through, impacting temperatures, breezy winds, but otherwise it's a moisture-starved storm track, and the precipitation is not all that heavy. So this is your next 15 days, the probability of picking up half an inch or more of moisture. I should say the next 10 days. Apologize. I'm going to go find another cup of coffee after I finish up this video, but you can pick out the more active corridors. Again, right here, central and eastern U.S., southern U.S., kind of coastal areas here where we get some moisture delivered from the Pacific Ocean, but it's right in this area across the Prairie, down into the upper Midwest, the northern plains that remains kind of left out to dry over the next 10 days. So mild temperatures overall over the next 10 days. You do see the impact of some of these kind of shots of cooler air. So highs in the 10 to 13 degree range in Calgary through the weekend, dropping back down to a couple degrees above freezing as we head into early next week. Very similar look here in Edmonton. Again, mild over the next 5 days, still close to average, if not a few degrees above average as we get into early next week. Saskatoon, same thing, just a few degrees cooler, a couple degrees above freezing the next few days, a couple degrees below freezing as we get into early next week. Finish up here with a look at Regina and then Winnipeg. So we are certainly starting that transition from winter into spring. Temperatures, the first kind of domino to fall here. We're getting that mild air across the region. It's going to be a little bit later, I think probably till mid-March, late March, until we get more impactful precipitation across the Canadian Prairie. Have a great day. Talk to you next Wednesday.